This is Austin Liti Limits, where authors talk to authors about books and the craft of storytelling. Sponsored by Blue Ink Review, because typing the end is just the beginning. Find out more at blueinkreview.com.
In this episode, we talked with singer-songwriter-author Darden Smith. Darden is a native Texan, born in Brenham. He has been living in Austin the past 40 years. He began writing songs when he was a lad of 10, and when he found out he could make a living in music at the ripe old age of 16, he was hooked. Darden has had 15 critically acclaimed albums through the years, but in 2021, in the midst of the COVID pandemic, he stepped out of his comfort zone to combine his music lyrics with essays, poetry, and photographs from an old Polaroid camera. The result is his book, Western Skies.
And we're going to welcome Darden Smith today. And this is a really unusual interview for Austin Liti Limits because Darden is best known for being a musician, one of the most respected musicians in Austin, but he's got a book now that really crosses so many genres. It's got photography, it's got essays, it's got poetry, it's got song lyrics. And so we want to welcome today and talk basically about the book, Western Skies.
There you go.
Welcome, Darden.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here. Appreciate it.
So the book, Western Skies, is
Yes.
a book. It's photography, but you've also included your lyrics for the songs that accompany it. You've got some essays in there. You've got a little bit of poetry in there. And of course, the pictures that just show the majesty, I think, of West Texas. So how
Yes.
did this all come about?
Yeah, during the pandemic, I was spending a lot of time at home because I'm not traveling. So I began to write songs, and then I was also doing these drives out to Arizona to do work with songwriting with soldiers. And during those drives, I made 6 or 7 trips between 2020 and 21 out there. On those drives, I started taking photographs with this Polaroid camera that I found in my garage. I'd had this camera for probably 30 years, hadn't used it in 20, and just began taking pictures. And then, when I'd be in the hotel out there or on the way, I was writing things down in a notebook and also speaking directly into my phone. And I wasn't trying to put together a project. I was just trying to work and try to be creative during this time, which is a very strange time in the world. So I was just trying to practice seeing and noticing and writing down. And then I put together a whole body of work of songs, and I went into a studio out near El Paso in Tornillo, Texas, called Sonic Ranch, just to record the songs. Again, I wasn't trying to make a record. I wasn't trying to make a book. I hadn't even thought about a book yet. And on the second day of recording, I was standing out watching the sun go down out there, and it sort of hit me that these photographs I'd been taking and the songs and the essays hung together. They were all part of one thing. And what it was a book with an album, as opposed to before I'd always thought about my work as sort of music first, music forward. And this was really book forward with an album. So then I got a little more focused about kind of what I was doing in direction of kind of where I was leaning. So the sound of the record kind of came into shape then. And also the photos, I began to see these Polaroid photos as things in and of itself, where the Polaroid itself could be featured on the page, as opposed to editing that out. With a Polaroid, there's no editing, which is the beautiful part of a Polaroid, also the scary part.
Yeah.
So, and then I began to think about it that way. Started producing the album from that point, and working with the designers, DJ Stout and Stu Taylor at Pentagram, and the editors and things like that, to shape this into what it is now. But I didn't intend to do it in the beginning. I was just working. And then after I began to put together the body of work, then it came into shape, which was really fun, really fun.
So you weren't sitting at home going, what should I do now? Oh, I think I'll grab a camera and run out to West Texas and create.
No, I was sitting at home thinking, what am I going to do now? And that's a good place to be, because I enjoy my work. I really enjoy sort of working as a musician and as a writer and as a sort of artist. So that challenge of how am I going to fill my time during this time when everything is shut down and my normal way of working, I wasn't able to do it really. So, okay, what am I going to do? And I just I have a belief that if you're an artist or a creative, you kind of need to do it every day. You need to do something every day. And so I began to, as opposed to relaxing during that time, and also a couple of other things were going on. I was turning 60. I was nearing my 60th birthday, which just passed. And my mother was very ill as well. She was sort of at the end of her life. And so the idea of mortality and the idea of passing time, the idea of these going out to West Texas, seeing the landscape out there, you can see time in the landscape out there. And so I just decided to turn up the heat on my creativity and on my efforts as opposed to relaxing during that time. And that was really, I think, instrumental in me being able to put this whole project together.
Good. Do you enjoy, I mean, you must travel a lot as a musician. Do you enjoy being on the road?
I have traveled a lot. I've been everywhere. And everywhere in America and Europe, I've pretty much been there. North America and Europe. I love, I don't like gratuitous travel anymore for work. It's like, I've got to have a reason. I used to just love just being gone, and now I love being home and I love getting things done. And it's really hard to get things done when your hands are locked to a steering wheel. It's really hard to do anything. And the older I get, the harder. You can't write, you can't think. You have to focus on that. So, but I do love getting around and doing, I love playing music and I love seeing things. And I tend to draw more when I'm traveling. I'd make more drawings. I take more photos. I play more music, of course. I love food as well. So I love getting out and experiencing food in different parts of the world. And I have friends all over the world. I like that part of it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like 6 a.m. flights.
No fun.
No, I try to stay away from those.
Of the travels that you did for Western Skies, or just that became part of that. Yeah. What was there one place, one location, one Polaroid, something that just jumped out at you and said, this is the most awesome of all of them?
I don't know that there was one Polaroid that jumped out of it. There was one Polaroid that when I took it, I went, okay, this is a new thing. Because, I say somewhere in the book, the introduction or something like that, I don't consider myself a photographer.
It was in the introduction.
I don't consider myself a photographer, but I like to take pictures and I like seeing. And to me, these Polaroids, I look at them as drawings. Actually, they're really like they're shaped like a drawing. To me, they're structured like a drawing. Most of the things that I photographed for these is something that if I was sitting there, I would have drawn. I would have made a drawing of it because it caught my eye. And the first photograph that I took where I went, okay, this is really interesting, and this is something I think I need to keep going down this path, was a photo. It's called Sentinels, and it's two big yucca that are on the side of the road, side of Highway 90, out in West Texas. And when I took that, there was something really strange about the black and white quality of that thing and the structural thing, and the fact that what I loved about the creation sort of phase of this project was that all three elements, the writings, the images, and the songs, all were done in probably the most analog of ways. the photographs were taken with a Polaroid, which there's no editing. You don't even you can't really aim a Polaroid. You can kind of aim a Polaroid, but you really don't know. It's very weird. And so you have to spend a lot of time just shaping it and framing the image within the camera, and then hoping, and really paying attention to light and shadow. But there's no digital quality to it. And then the songs were written on an acoustic guitar and a piano. I mean, right sitting in the studio, it's like they were written right here and along the way. And then the essays and some of the lyrics, but the essays were written by hand in a moleskin notebook. It's like, and I loved that part of it, because as we were culture, and also as individuals and as a group, we were sort of slammed fast forward into a digital. I mean, we were ordering our groceries online, everything was digital.
Yeah.
And I went the other way with my work, where I went extremely analog, and it was really soothing.
Do you think that maybe this experience can be used by other authors, maybe in other genres, to learn how to step back and slow down and maybe get away from the hustle and bustle of our daily lives?
Well, I'm not the first person that's ever done this. I'm not the first person that's ever sort of taken the time. All art comes from being still, pretty much. You have to be, the artist has to eventually get still. And, there's a lot of teachings out there about taking a step back from your hustle bustle life to create. And so, yeah, they could use it, but I think there's so many teachings about this very same thing that, I'm not the guru.
maybe the better way to approach this, though, is to advise a lot of authors, especially if they're stuck, to go out and explore and find their inspiration.
That's the truth. That's the truth. And years ago, I was in my music world. I did this back in the 90s. I did this tour with Stevie Nicks. And so I went out and opened up for Stevie Nicks for a whole summer and wound up playing in her band. It was a trip. It was bizarre. And, but the drummer was one of my heroes, a man named Russ Kunkel. And Russ and I was on the road with him for 3 months and playing in the band. So I got to know them. It was one of the most magical, lucky breaks of my life. Anyway, so I got to know one of my heroes. And one day Russ and I were talking, and I was telling him, I said, like, I don't have any new songs to make a record with. I don't know what I'm going to do, And he said, go on an adventure. Go somewhere where you're uncomfortable. And you don't have to, and he goes, because you got to shake the trees. You got to wake your brain up. Go see something new, and intentionally. I've never forgotten that, because what he's saying was, and you can do that by physically traveling, or you can do it by sitting still and getting deep, but taking the journey inside of your mind or your heart. I've never forgotten that. And I've used that sort of inspiration to this day of, like, go on a journey, go on a challenge yourself. So I'm big on projects, and I'm big on setting parameters for myself. Like, I'm going to explore this thing. And I think that's good for any artist, especially an artist that has been doing it for a while. It's very easy to get stuck, and it's very easy to, I heard a great word today. I heard the word calcify. It's very easy for an artist to become creatively calcified and thinking, this is how I do it, and this is what I do. And I think whenever an artist says that, they need to immediately break that habit because you're becoming stuck.
Yeah.
And the way to grow, of course, that's always a challenge for the marketing department when you do that. But I think that's how growth happens. That's how change. That's how you have to take risks. And everyone, it doesn't matter how many risks I take as a musician. The songs are going to sound like me because I'm the one singing them. But pushing myself into these other mediums, whether it be visual art or film or whatever, it wakes me up,
Yeah.
and it brings about new avenues of working, and I just think it's a really good method.
I think any artist, though, that steps outside of their calcified, persona, really runs a risk. Don't you think the public is going to go, oh, why is that musician becoming an artist? He doesn't have any talent for that. He should just keep doing what he's doing, and that makes us happy. And
Well,
you run
people
that
want you
risk when
to
you do that.
people want you to do the same thing until you do the same thing, and then they want you to do something different until
Right.
they do something different.
You
So
can't
the
win.
artist, you have to not pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And you have to, yeah, I mean, everyone, we all have to make a living. So you have to pay attention to that part of it, the sort of economics of being a musician or artist, whatever. You can explore all you want to, but if you you still have to pay the rent.
Yeah.
You have to pay attention to that. Within that, you should also be exploring all the time, because, and you can get ahead of your audience. Okay, well, you got ahead of them, and some of them follow you. I mean, how many people only love Bob Dylan until 1968?
Right.
Or they only love Blood on the Tracks, or they only love Time Out of Mind. It's like a long working artist, you better change. You better change, or you're going to be boring. Or even worse, you begin to impersonate yourself. And well, that's just that, to me, that's the worst.
Yeah.
Impersonate yourself. And people, I think the people that inspire me are the people that have recreated their life, recreated their work.
Yeah.
And every 7 years, I believe an artist needs to recreate themselves, because what did work is probably not working the same way. So every 6 to 8 years, a successful artist generally recreates themselves.
Have you done that?
I think I'm on my fourth. I think I'm on my fourth time. No, I'm serious. I started out, when I was 25. I put my first record out 35 years ago, and I was very much a Texas singer-songwriter guy, very much in the folk world, sort of influenced by Guy Clark, Townes Van Sant, that sort of ethic, And then I had a phase in my life where I was making more indie records. My music became more influenced by pop music. I had a record deal, had big record deals and all that kind of thing, and videos and all that kind of thing. And that all goes away. When it goes away, then you have to figure out how to make a living and keep doing it. And I entered into sort of another era of my sort of work, another decade. And then I discovered using songs to serve others, which is the Songwriting with Soldiers program was built out of that. I've done a lot of work in the pandemic with frontline healthcare workers. So it's how to use songs for the benefit of others, to tell others stories. That's a whole part of my life that was huge. I still do it. It's great. And it allowed me to be creative and also feed my family and put my kids through college and things like that. And now I feel like I'm in my 60s, and I feel like I've entered into a whole new phase of potential and creativity. And the good, bad thing is that I've never been so successful that there was that many people that were making a living off me. So I could have had a lot more freedom.
Yeah.
Like there's really nobody to tell me no. It's only and so it allows me the opportunity to just kind of do what I want to do. I still got to, I have to pay the bills, have to make a living at it. So I have to pay attention to that, which I think is good for an artist. You have to be a little hungry, but also just, I want to do that. I want to put a book out that has photographs and like no one's going, hey, Darden, I don't know. That's probably not a good idea. There's no one to say that. So it's great.
Yeah. So you have the release of the spoken word version of Western Skies coming up, but beyond that, what's in the future for Darden Smith?
I'm working on a one-man show. I'll be doing touring as well. I'm just going out and doing shows, music, where I'll be doing readings, read and play the songs. And I'm doing more work. I have a lithographs show that's up in Houston at the at Redbud Gallery. I took 11 of the Polaroids and enlarged them and made a series of lithographs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's on view right now, and that'll be continuing on touring. And then the videos and everything for the spoken word will come out in the fall, and then I'm working on a one-man show
Good.
with Around Western Skies.
Yeah.
That will probably be a couple of years in the making.
I've been struggling whether or not to ask this particular question before we wrap up here, but I'm going to go ahead and do it.
You can ask anything you want.
When I found out that we were lucky enough to get you to come and do the interview with us, I went back and pulled up my playlist of songs and my Darden Smith songs, and I came across the $2 novel.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, which was a long time ago, but I could see, listening to the song, I could see you or somebody having a Polaroid as you're driving through this town and you're looking at the people who inhabit this town. And that's what the song is all about. And I have to ask, have you ever considered writing a novel?
Yeah, I did.
They're not $2 anymore.
No, I have considered writing fiction, and my fiction is really bad.
Ooh.
I've tried to do it, and it's really, really not very good. So I have a lot of friends that do fiction, and what I've realized is that I've tried it, and it's not very good
For you.
It's pretty boring, actually. And I don't write really good. I don't think my sentences are that great, and I don't like anything that's that long of a story, a structure. I get bored really fast. So I don't think I could write anything longer than an essay, just because I get bored with it. The idea of keeping a storyline going for a couple of years, which is what it takes, I think my brain would explode. So I like shorter projects. And I got to admit, I spent a large part of my youth writing songs that were kind of fiction based. And I kind of gave that up, because I found that my own personal life and the life of the people that I actually know and the things that I see are far more interesting than any story that I can create in my mind.
Isn't that always the case?
Well, I just keep it what I consider it's not nonfiction, but it's true.
Yeah.
And so novels, I couldn't do it. I don't really.
As a journalist who turned into a novelist, I find it difficult for me to not steal from things that I see and people that I meet. And I rely heavily on my experiences to create the stories. And then I'll, tweak them so that, the names have been changed.
Yeah, I think if you're not stealing the good parts of your life and the lives of others, you're not really trying.
Okay, so now this is the part of the interview where we do what we call the lightning round.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, we stole it from the actor's studio who stole
hit me.
it from somebody. I mean, all the way down there.
Yeah.
So anyway, our first question. What's your favorite word?
Today it's calcify.
I had a feeling you were going to go in that.
Yeah, today. But it changes every day.
Yeah. What is your...
Or maybe, if not calcify, fantastic.
Fantastic's a good one too. So what is your least favorite word?
No.
You're not going to answer?
No.
I'm just kidding.
That's my least favorite word.
That was your least favorite word. What turns you on?
Life.
What turns you off?
Negativity.
What is your idea of happiness?
Freedom.
Ooh, that's a good one. We need more of that right now. Who is your favorite author?
I would say, I don't know. Steinbeck, maybe. John le Carré.
Yeah.
I'll pick John le Carré.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Although
He's a fantastic author.
Yeah, Steinbeck is my personal favorite. So
Steinbeck, I also like Cormac McCarthy, but
good.
really, I think at the end of the day, I owned more John le Carré books than anybody else. So.
All right, then. If you could be a character in any well-known novel throughout history, who would you want to be?
Oh, George Smiley.
Of course. Makes sense. All right. So,
but I would, if I was George Smiley, I would keep the wife. I would be able to keep the wife.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to be my favorite person, I want to tweak it a little. Yeah.
Yeah. What profession, other than being a musician, writer, I mean, you do so many different things, but what profession, other than your own, would you like to attempt?
Fashion design.
Fashion design.
Fashion design. Yeah. Men's fashion.
That's interesting.
I love fabric.
Yeah.
And I have a massive fabric and button collection.
What profession would you least want to do?
Lawyer.
I get that. Lawyers and accountants come up often when we do.
I don't mind. I love my lawyer and I love my accountant, but I'm really happy that I can hire them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So our final question. If heaven exists, what would you like God to say to you when you reach the check-in desk?
Here so soon?
That implies possibly an early death. That's really dark.
It doesn't matter when you. It doesn't. You don't want to have. We've been expecting you, or we thought you'd never get here. Yeah.
That's whole nother day's topic or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So Western Skies, Darden Smith, thank you very much for doing the interview with Austin Liti Limits today.
Thank you so much.
This has been a presentation of Austin Liti Limits, made possible with help from our good friends at Blue Ink Review, where typing "the end" is just the beginning. Find out more at blueinkreview.com.